We're just going to get to a conversation with Sula Vineyards. Well, we had the cheat sheet coming in earlier in April, but they reported a decent set of numbers in the fourth quarter. The company clocked its highest ever sales in FY23 with quarter 4 sales driven by premiumization. We have with us Mr. Rajeev Samant, the MD and CEO at Sula Vineyards, who joins us on the show. Hi, Rajeev. Good morning. Thanks so much for joining in. Well, let's get a couple of numbers out of the way since we're getting into pre-open. Your margins for FY23, well, they expanded by around 200 basis points. This has you scaled up your own brands to around 87%. And of that, the elite as well as premium, well, that's scaled up to around 72%. What's the target for FY24 on margins? Can you head towards that 30%? And also, what kind of revenue growth you're looking at?
So I'm really happy to say that our margins have grown something like 350 basis points from around 25.6% in FY22 to just north of 29% in FY23. We do see maybe a little bit of margin moderation in FY24 as we really push for wine to penetrate further into tier 1 and tier 2 cities. That's really our focus right now. We think we've reached a fabulous place in terms of margin. What we are looking for is strong double-digit growth in our own brands, and basically growth in our own premium brands, our focus on wine tourism, all our high-margin businesses, but pumping some of that money back in the market to get more Indians drinking great Indian wine.
So, Rajeev, you're saying that margins will be in this vicinity, maybe shave off close to around 100 basis points. Is that something we can work with? And do you want to quantify the double digit? Give us a broad range. Double could be 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25. Which slot are you going for?
That's a fair assumption on the margins. That's a very fair assumption. I think if we did anything less than 15%, I would be disappointed. That's where I would like to leave that.
Okay, so around 15% revenue growth for the next year, and margins will moderate, but you'll be somewhere around this range itself. Got that. I want to understand a little more about growth, because you said you're penetrating and you're trying to penetrate.
At least 15%, I said. You said okay. Around 15%.
With an upside.
Upwards of 15%.
Okay,
upside, Sonia, because your co-anchors will help, I think.
Okay, many of them in the studio here will help you contribute.
I'm still not a convert. So. But I think Rajeev is trying.
Definitely. I mean, he doesn't need us to contribute, actually. The way it's going.
If you're a whiskey man, we'll start you with red wine. That's the way that the trends are going, especially in North India. India is drinking a lot of red wine, even though I think...
Absolutely.
You're speaking to your
I think we should be a white and rosé wine country, given our climate, given our food, given our spicy food. But for some reason, I don't know, you tell me, everyone wants to drink red.
So I'm a teetotaler, so you're speaking to the wrong person here. But, you know, my co-anchors...
That's part of our job. We have to convert some whiskey drinkers and some teetotalers.
Okay, let's see how that goes. But, tell us a little bit about, I was asking you about the expansion plans. Do you have any plans for inorganic growth? Any acquisitions that you'd be looking at? And what kind of expansion are we talking about here?
Wine is not a target-rich space in India right now. We already have 60% plus market share. So I would not say that that's a burning focus of ours right now. However, having said that, we've always been open to acquisitions. We made a couple of acquisitions over the last 6-7 years. We acquired York Winery just a few years ago. So we are always up for it, always looking for it. If somebody is interested, they always know that we'll always give them a good open year.
Rajeev, I remember you saying that bulk of, and correct me if I'm wrong, of the wine that you sell, the price point is between 700 and 1100 rupees a bottle, right? Is that going to still be the thrust of your focus? Or you'll go lower as you enter new markets? For example, you've entered the Kerala market in the fourth quarter. Now that, at least from what I know, is not the wine drinking kind of market, a typical wine drinking market. But yeah, go on.
So you must remember one thing that, obviously wine is very tiny. So when you talk about typical, wine itself is not typical in India. So that's nothing that we're not used to. Now we dominate the market starting from 250 rupees all the way up to 2000 rupees. That's the Sula price point. 700 to 1100 has been really our sweet spot over this past year especially. But we are pushing more and more even upwards of that, because you have more wine drinkers, I'm sure a lot of your friends who today are not looking at bottles below 1,500 rupees. So you have that segment as well, and Sula is taking market share very rapidly in that segment. That remains our focus. We are not focused below 700 rupees. Having said that, we still dominate even below 700 rupees.
Okay, just one final question, if I can squeeze it in. Are there any state-wise controls on distribution and pricing? And is that an impediment like it is for other alcohol companies?
Yes, we do have a lot of states that do have controls on wine pricing, just as with spirits and beer pricing. What I would like to say, though, it's been good news mostly in this past year. Most states have, in fact, given a little bit of price increase, which hasn't happened easily in the past. You know, states were recovering from COVID, very difficult financial situations in most states. Today, states are in a much better financial situation, and they're not looking to milk the booze cow just as much as they used to, say, 3 or 4 years ago. So it's looking good.
Okay, all right, Rajeev, I like that. Early in the morning, you know, people talk about converting to veganism, veg, non-veg. You're talking about converting the whiskey drinkers to wine. So
you know, I call
that,
wine as the vegetarian drinking option.
Call it as it is. Rajeev, thanks so much for joining in. And you spoke to part of your target audience, I think so. And part of that,
always a pleasure.
At the